I went through menopause around 53, 54, and it was mostly a non-event. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it was easy, but it was mostly a non-event for me because I knew what I needed to do. And I knew I needed to tighten in my diet. I knew I needed to drop a lot of carbohydrate, at least in the beginning, because we're wired that when estrogen goes down, that automatically puts us into a potential to have this pre-diabetic space where we just don't handle carbs and sugar very well anymore.
Welcome to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, the podcast for high achievers who want to stay sharp, focused, and full of energy despite their diagnosis. With your host, National Board Certified Functional Medicine Health Coach, Julie Michelson, where Julie helps you take your power back from autoimmunity. And now here's your host, Julie Michelson.
Welcome back to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast. I'm your host, Julie Michelson. And today we're joined by Dr. Kris Sargent. Kris wrote and published her first book, Simply Functional Medicine, in 2017, and her second, Cultivating a Mind, Soul, and Body for God, is almost complete. She offers keynotes and workshops based on her work in cultivating, and she's the host of Spark Faith. Over the years, Dr. Sargent has accumulated hundreds of hours of continuing education in functional nutrition, leadership, and personal development, as well as certification in first-line therapy, a postdoctoral master's degree in advanced clinical practice and internal medicine, and she has 32 years in private practice. Dr. Sargent also considers herself a clinical science geek and sleuth. In today's conversation, we're talking about true lifestyle medicine and faith as a powerful component of wellness. We discuss the power of leaving your comfort zone and embracing change and growth at any age. Dr. Kris, welcome to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, Julie, thank you so much. I just love doing podcasts and I love being able to talk to interesting people and all the things. So thank you so much for your time, and this is going to be fun. It's going to be a great conversation, y'all.
It is. I'm very excited for our conversation. We've been chatting, and I said, I should probably just hit record.
Yes, ma'am.
I would love for you to share, because I know you have been in the functional medicine world for a long time. And I think it makes listeners lean in, but also just, I'm always curious because it's not usually nothing. Like, what brought you into functional medicine, especially, I would say, ahead of the curve?
Definitely ahead of the curve, and female, definitely ahead of the curve. So when I was in chiropractic school, before chiropractic school, I had horrible monthly hormones, terrible. I was two different people. It was awful. And probably ruined a bunch of really good relationships in my 20s, right? Mood swings and all the things. Well, instead of having drug reps come in to chiropractic school, we had vitamin reps. And one day, this guy got up and presented all this material and all this really cool stuff that had to do with nutrition. And I'm like, oh, I want that. I want to learn more. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, look, I want to do what you're talking about. I want to be able to talk to people and integrate nutrition with lifestyle. And I said, can I be a client? And he said, no, I'm a vitamin rep. I'm not a practitioner. And I said, I know you're not. Would you help me anyway? And I begged. And he finally said yes. And that led me down the beginning road of understanding that cleaning up my gut. I'd always eaten well because I'd always had a weight issue. So I'd always been pretty good, I thought. But we took out a bunch of stuff that you think is healthy, right? Or better for you. And within about 3 months, I was a different person.
Oh, wow.
And my cycles were completely different.
And this was still in your 20s.
They became a non-event mid-20s.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 1990. So,
wow.
Yeah, I and I was like, okay, as soon as I graduate, I am going to do chiropractic care and I'm going to do functional medicine together, because it just made sense to me that if the body's healthy, then it's going to hold the adjustments better. Your nervous system is going to fire better. Your immune system is going to take it all in better. Like all of it's going to work better together. And that's how I started my practice. But it really was like female hormones, and being a female, of course, I attracted females into the practice primarily. And yeah, that's how it all started, and at that time in 1990, Institute of Functional Medicine and Dr. Jeff Bland had really just rolled onto the scene with any kind of like continuing education. Like that's all you had, right? It was just continuing ed. There were no schools. There was nothing that had to do with certifications. There was none of that.
Yeah.
So I just grew up in practice doing all of my continuing ed around functional medicine at the Institute of Functional Medicine and Jeff Bland. And so that was the beginning. And it really was the beginning. We would have 500 people there on any given weekend, but it was mostly chiropractors. Not going to lie. I mean, there was a handful of medical doctors. Mark Hyman was there. Probably James was there. I mean, I don't know, but there was just this handful of us that just really stuck and drove in and dove into functional medicine when nobody even knew that was a thing. Like you had to call it something. We had to call it nutrition. We had to call it a whole bunch of other things besides what it was.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And it makes so much sense. I know really understanding, supporting, and treating hormones is what led James down that path years ago, from his family medicine practice. And I think like there is no other way. Like once you realize hormones are key and the body is this integrated system, you can't separate it all into different compartments.
You can't.
You have to, I don't care what you call it, but you have to find a different approach, which tends to fall under the umbrella now of functional medicine or integrative or what,
Again, multiple different names. You can call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it is lifestyle medicine.
Yes. Amen.
It is your whole lifestyle. It's not just eating right. Like that's right. In my world anyway, that's about 80% of it. Because that's going to turn on inflammation, turn off inflammation. And then you have the ancillary things that we all know are important, like drinking your water, like getting to the gym or walking or some kind of body movement, getting your sleep. Your body has to heal. And the only time it does that is when you go to sleep.
I was going to say, even the perfect individualized diet and execution is only going to get you so far if you're not managing your stress and you're not doing all the other things. So I love that you hit on that. It really is truly lifestyle. And it's also not, that it is lifelong. I mean, we're always up leveling and shifting.
Yes,
and what I'm doing today to feel really well is not what I was doing 6 years ago to feel really well. It's different.
It's different. And it does shift. And I think women more than men, but I think what you said about diet being such an important part, but it's not all of it. And that's a lot of times when clients come in, they're like, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing all these dietary things, but I still don't feel good. I'm like, okay, but have you had any labs? And they're like, well, my doctor just ran everything and everything was normal. And I'm like,
CBC.
I've never seen a normal. So
and normal, look at our society. Like who really wants to be normal?
Normal is 70% of Americans are overweight and obese. Do you want to be normal?
No.
I hate to say it like that. And I'm not judging.
No.
It's just the facts.
Yeah. Optimal.
Just the facts.
That's right. We should make a new optimal medicine. Optimized medicine. Right?
Optimized medicine. And that's what functional medicine really is. It's about optimizing physiology. It's about optimizing your health. It's about optimizing your outlook, your faith, your mindset. All of those things play into our neurotransmitters and our hormones all wrapped up together, or we aren't going to be able to optimize our function in the world. Right.
For real.
And maybe for you and I being people of faith, like we want to do what God has out there for us.
Right.
In the best way possible.
Yeah.
So,
well,
and
I know I warned you before I hit record that I'm going to see, I was curious where the conversation was going to go. Of course, I had ideas, but I'm actually going to go with what I'm feeling in the moment. Let's talk a little, because, and we can weave all of it in, because again, we are whole humans. It's all important. I do think one of the many things, but one of the big things missing when you go to your PCP, or your, whoever
primary nurse
you see,
practitioner,
if
whatever.
you have whoever, they don't ask about faith, right?
No,
like they know, and it is actually important. It doesn't matter what your faith is, but let's talk about the importance. If we're talking about total wellness, share with me, because I know this is your jam. This is what you do day in and day out. And we can still touch on like weight gain and menopause, but because that affects so many of us as well. But let's talk about this faith as a component of wellness.
Sure, absolutely. I think, the studies are out that say that people of faith have, first of all, overall, less anxiety and less depression, period.
Something these days when both of those things are pretty rampant.
Right. And when you have faith in something bigger than you, you realize that you don't have to control everything.
Yeah.
Like you can say and believe that, okay, since I believe this, there's somebody else out there controlling what I need to do and what I need to learn. And I can choose to humbly accept the things that come into my life, whether it's suffering, right? Like you've had autoimmune, whether it's suffering or something happy, either way, you can have gratitude for that. And when we bring gratitude into the picture, now we have calmer everything. So you talk about menopause, you can have calmer hormones, you can have calmer adrenals, you can have calmer neurotransmitters because of having faith. And faith tends to bring a community together.
Yes.
You're Jewish, you have a synagogue or temple, you go to temple, you have people. You have your people, right? I have my Christian friends that I love hanging out with because we all embrace a similar value system.
Yes.
And that's another part, that when you are hanging out with people who have a similar value system, it makes you stronger. You become the 5 people that you hang out with, right?
Right.
And so if you're hanging out with people that think the same way and that want you to be better, guess what? You're going to be a better version of the human that you were put on the planet to be. So that's where I think faith is. And for me in my practice, I think that as we choose our lifestyles, that we can do that humbly and for his glory, for his to honor God with our bodies, with our temples. We had this little tiny conversation about this a couple minutes ago. Like in the Torah, right? There's books. Y'all, there are 2 books of the Bible that talk about how the temple was created, right? The Ark of the Covenant was created. Every detail.
Yes.
What it was made of, how big it was supposed to be, how it was supposed to be put together, how it was supposed to be honored,
materials where.
Yes. Like all of it. And we're the same. As a Christian, I believe that our body is the temple. We house a Holy Spirit. We house God now. And so, casually, do you really want to be in a sugar coma if the Holy Spirit has something to tell you? Right? If God is trying to talk to you and you're like, yeah, I just ate a whole piece of cake. Like, how are you going to know?
I'm stuck on the couch right now. I'll get back to you later.
I'll get back to you later. Like, you really want to tell the God of the universe that?
I love that. Well, and you're getting to, for me, such an important distinction. Because I love having conversations with people and finding out digging. I'm a digger. You're a digger. This is what we do.
I love it.
And I, to me, it's almost, to use a different word and tell me if this aligns or doesn't. I feel like it's my responsibility to take the best care of my body possible, right? Like, so that I can do the things I'm here to do.
Absolutely.
And so, because sometimes at the end of the spectrum, which to me is like, that becomes an excuse, is like, well, whatever's going to be is going to be anyway. God's in charge. So I don't have to try. You know what I mean? Like there is, that is not how I take anything I read, or any people of like, the center of a faith is not like, oh, just sit around because, you don't have an impact. Like we still always have a choice.
We do have a choice. And I think that people can get really wrapped up in feeling guilty about not taking care. And that can lead people down a really bad road, because that's the despair.
Right.
Right. Instead of saying, I'm going to be grateful for where I am. I've made a lot of mistakes. And, as a Christian, like that's in my world, like that's what Jesus died for, right? For me to not carry my sins and my choices,
right,
my poor choices with me all the time. I can leave that over there and say, okay, I can start anew, and I can start anew every morning, right? New mercies every day. So I think it's just really about that.
Yeah.
For people, like set aside whatever happened in the past.
Right.
So that now you can take a new look at how you can handle this. And then the motivation doesn't go away either. You're not like, oh, I got to get up my willpower to not eat the cake or the popcorn or whatever. Right. It's like, no, I can do it freely and make choices that will make God happy in a way. And not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but out of gratitude.
I love that.
And that makes the whole thing so much easier. There's no more of that heavy shame and guilt. You can just make choices that you can be grateful that you have these choices. And that does not mean that I don't binge out on a big old bowl of popcorn every now and again, right? Or a piece of key lime pie, because I'm going.
Well, and it's not about perfection. We're not supposed to be perfect.
We're not.
It's not sustainable, even if it weren't attainable. So it's the knowing, the knowing what I'm like, okay, well, no for me on the popcorn is it would give me a migraine. But I can make a really great dairy-free, grain-free key lime pie that's delicious because that treats me, I know where my cheats are that aren't going to set me back. And even if one did, like you said, tomorrow's a new day, like you just make a different choice. I find that
next meal.
Yeah. The perfectionism is, especially, I mean, I know we both work with women and men, but we both work with a lot of women. And this perfectionism keeps people so stuck because as soon as they make a mistake, they throw the whole thing out. And it's like, no, just up level. Next choice.
Yeah. We're so pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, don't need help, feeling competent if you have to ask for help. Like that is not how we're wired. We're wired for community. Yes. And we're wired to be around other people and to have other people with other gifts and talents to be next to us and to help us. Right. If I didn't have somebody that could do my books for me, if I didn't have somebody chirping in my ear about some better ways to do marketing or a better way to present myself or whatever those things are, I wouldn't be sitting here with you.
Right. Well,
so
and
we
then
all
we're done.
Need those people.
We're still here, God willing. Thank you. So there must be more to do. We can continue growing. We should continue growing. And so it's funny. We have a new gal working at the clinic who is amazing about prioritizing patient questions And she will like get a hold of the doctors and be like, so-and-so needs in between patient. Like she's not waiting. She's like, and she said to me, is that okay? Am I bothering them? I'm like, they love it. Like it's all about learning and growing, and the whole reason we're here is to support people. And so and she'll ask questions like, well, why this and not that? And I'm like, that's the whole point. Keep learning, growing, doing.
Absolutely.
And it just helps us serve better.
Yeah. I mean, who goes to seminary when they're 59, 60 years old?
You do. I mean, yeah.
Who takes on a master's degree at this age? I do. And
why not?
I know. And I'm not the oldest one in the class, and I'm not the youngest one in the class. And so it's never too late either. And I think that some people do say, oh, well, I turned 45 and I started gaining weight and it's just part of aging. And that is a huge narrative that undergirds a lot of medicine, really. Women who've just had children, maybe they're in their 20s or early 30s, and they go into their doctor and they've got, 3 kids under the age of 5, and they wonder why they're tired. And their doctor just looks at them and goes, oh, you have 3 kids under 5.
That's my big pet peeve in the world right there. Of course you're tired. I wouldn't be at the doctor if I was tired. I'm something else, like fatigue. It's different. And that is my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah. I put together pregnancy recovery, a pregnancy recovery plan, because most of these women are just, frankly, they're iron deficient. Right. Yeah. And they're B complex deficient because their adrenals have had to take over for so long. And and they've had lots of blood loss and just all
and progesterone tanks postpartum.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And their whole body is like, oh, we just had a baby. And you think back though, like biblical times, what do? They didn't do anything.
No, they were with other women being taken care of and nurtured, and exactly. And we don't do that anymore. It's like, have a baby, get back to work. Like what is happening?
I know, it's crazy. Even 100 years ago, women would go to bed when they had their period.
Right.
Now we take the pill nonstop so that if I have to run in the Olympics, I'm not on my period that week.
Right. No, it is. So back to the body as a temple, like something got messed up.
We're derailed here.
And I do think, and men also, there's, all of the things also are affecting men at this point. I just did an interview. We're talking about, it's this, their hormones are affected by our lifestyle, our planet, all the things. I mean,
yep. Yes, ma'am.
We were talking about, just the drop in testosterone, like, please, please, please. And I know listeners are like, oh, she's going to do it again. Like driving electric cars, you're going to sit your sperm right on those batteries and then wonder why you can't father children. Like there's a lot of problems.
Along with all of the hyper processed foods, ultra processed foods, and the sugar and aromatase enzymes shifting from testosterone to estrogen, and guys are wondering why they have.
I have had 3 clients, and I already told you, and listeners know, I'm from Jersey. I don't have a filter.
I don't have much of one either.
Have a sense of humor, I'm not the right person. I'm only a couple of years younger than you, so we're very well aligned. And I've said to 3 different male clients when I've gotten labs back, like my testosterone is higher than yours and your estrogen is higher than mine. This is a problem. This is a problem.
This is a problem.
Not good. Not good.
No, it's not. Yeah. And it's such a negative feed forward cycle, and they're using food to manage emotions that they don't know how to manage because they don't think they need help because they're men. And it breaks my heart, and then they wonder why ED? Well, first of all, your brain is stressed out, and you got to have that all put together.
That is a component.
And your hormones are messed up. Like how do you think your body's going to handle that? That's not going to be, we are wired for survival. Right. And so, and women lose their drive too, because they're so stressed out.
Right.
Stress is, I think mental and emotional stress is one of the things that people discount the most.
Yes.
I don't know what you see in your practice.
Absolutely.
But they start ticking off some of the things. I'm like, really? There's nothing going on in your life at all? And they're like, well, there's this little thing and that little thing. And oh yeah, we're building a house and we bought a new property. And I'm like, did you just tell me these 5 things?
Because now I'm stressed.
That's a lot to handle. And
right.
They're like, well, I don't know. It's just part of life. I'm like,
that. First of all, here's another
you choose
word.
those things, right?
Busy. Like it's a badge of honor, the two, like
busy. And I only have to sleep 4 hours.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm a super sleeper because I've heard that's a thing. I'm like, you know how rare that is? It's not really your thing. That's not, you wouldn't be talking to me if you were doing really well on your 4 hours a night.
Exactly.
So I want to circle back to
yes, ma'am.
This idea. You're back in school, right? Mm-hmm. I'm guessing since you just shared your age with us that you're also postmenopausal.
I am.
So let's talk about that.
Sure.
Because we touched on it and I don't know, it just energetically, I was like, oh, let's talk about that. Because I too, many listeners know I'm an oversharer. I had my ovaries and uterus removed in 2020. So I am also postmenopausal. And I am in thus far the best part of my life yet. Right. I feel my best. My relationships are their best. Just all of the things. This is, which I would wish, I always wish for my children, every year, all right, other things, but the same thing in their birthday cards, may this be your best year yet. That is possible. That's the goal. It doesn't mean we don't ever have hard stuff. Right. But let's talk about this. Like, do we have to wither up and waste away?
Heck no. I wish I was wearing a sleeveless shirt. I'd show you my biceps. And my lack of hangy fat.
I'll keep my arms down.
No, honestly, I think that's so important though. And it's important to talk about. So I went through menopause around 53, 54, and it was mostly a non-event. Now, I also had a teenage daughter who had started her period around the same time. So I'm not going to tell you that it was easy, but it was mostly a non-event for me, mostly because I knew what I needed to do. Okay. And I knew I needed to tighten in my diet. I knew I needed to drop a lot of carbohydrate, at least in the beginning, because we're wired that when estrogen goes down, that automatically puts us into a potential to have this pre-diabetic space where we just don't handle carbs and sugar very well anymore. And so we start getting this belly fat. Well, I wasn't about to have belly fat. I've worked really hard to keep my weight where it is. And, I'm like, no, it does. I don't believe that has to happen. Right. And so I just started shifting and I found out that I didn't feel good when I was doing HIIT workouts and heavy weights and kettlebell with my 35-year-old friends. I didn't feel good anymore when I did that. So I had to, like you said, you have to retool things to make your body feel better. Yes. And so I did. I retooled, and for me, it was upping cardio. I started running again. I did some light weights so that I could stay toned. But I can tell you that as I took care of my mom for the last 5 years, I had to change some things because my stress level really increased a lot. And so I had to change the way I did things. And ultimately, I probably gained 6 or 7 pounds over the last year that I was taking care of her. 1 second. And I realized that, there was a lot more stress in taking care of her than I anticipated. And so she passed in March, and it's all good. Yeah. That's okay. When you have somebody with dementia, that's another podcast we could do.
That is.
But when she passed, I took a couple of months and kind of looked at what's going on in my life and what am I doing and how am
Mhm.
I, and
Right.
realized like, okay,
Oh, I
this
haven't checked
seven
in a
pounds,
while.
yeah,
Yeah.
this 7 pounds has got to go. I'm so tired of my jeans being tight when I sit in the Zoom room all the time.
Yeah.
And so I did. I just embarked on like, okay, what do I need to do? And I tightened up my protein. I went back to the gym, and I really have over the last June, July, August, I dropped the weight. I put on,
Nice.
I'm
Muscle.
clearly leaner
Yeah.
just looking in the mirror. My jeans are too big, same jeans. Um, and so back to it's never too late. Like
Right.
it literally is never too late.
Yeah. Or
And
too early. I always add that, like,
or too early.
but really, because, and it could, because you don't, it's not, menopause isn't the only thing, right? You mentioned stress levels, like life, take any segment of life and something is going to change. And so we do constantly, people are always surprised, like, well, what do you mean you need to up level? This is what you do for a living. I'm like, well, yeah. And
That's
I
exactly
went
right.
from working at home and without even thinking, walking 10 miles a day, just taking care of the animals on the farm and just there's so many things that were built into lifestyle because I've been working from home for 7 years. Well, now I'm at the clinic every day. I'm under fluorescent lights. My windows don't open. I'm not walking 10 miles a day without putting any thought in. I'm not grounding in between clients because I'm not running around the clinic barefoot because I feel like people would think that's weird. Also, we're on the second story. I wouldn't be grounding anyway. So like, all these things, right? And
Yeah.
it kicked my butt. Like 2 weeks in, I could feel the inflammation. And I was like, wait a minute. I need to revamp my whole routine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I am an early riser. Not everybody is, but
Yes, me
I
too.
can tell you
Sacred
that
time.
I agree with that. And I think that I say this gently and in jest and serious all at the same
Uh-huh.
time. Anybody can be a morning person.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a choice. And is it hard at first? Sure. It may take a month to get your schedule backed up so that you're going to bed at 9:30 or 10 so that you can get up at 5 or
Right.
6. Right?
Right.
It may take a little bit of work,
Mm-hmm.
a shift, a mindset, and it's so worth it.
I love that.
I've
And
been an
also
early riser for a long time.
we're all different too, though. Like I
We
know if
are.
I don't work out in the morning, I
Ain't
don't
gonna
care
happen.
what story I tell myself, it is not happening. Even if I am working, like
Nope.
today, I'm home. It's not going to happen if it didn't happen in the morning. And James never works out in the morning. He always works out at night. That works for him.
It does.
I'd say
And men are different
impressive.
than women that way too.
True.
They
True.
really are.
And
I just
so
know that I don't roll out of bed
yeah.
looking like this. And I'm not doing it twice.
Love that. That's awesome. Yeah. That's great.
I love all my makeup. I love all the femininity that I can bring to the
Uh-huh.
table that I wasn't always able to bring to the table
I
as a
love it.
professional and a physician who
Mm-hmm.
lived in a male world for most of
Right.
my practice life. But now I can bring it, I can be as feminine and soft as I want to be. And that's not going to happen if I have to go to the gym at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right. Right.
It's just not.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love
So
to me, the moral of the story is, and I love how you, you added the grace of like, okay, yes, it's funny, but I'm also serious because it is true. We can all create whatever change
yes,
we dedicate ourselves to, and all
absolutely.
of it takes time. I don't care. I find, at least with clients, I'm sure it's the same with myself if I paid attention, the things that seem like they're the simplest to do, that we don't have to put thought into creating that new habit, wrong. Those are always the ones that, that it just seems
Those are
like,
the
oh, I
ones that
should
don't
remember.
matter.
Yep.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
have to, yeah. I mean, it's like I tell clients when they're like, well, I'm just stuck. I don't know what to do. I'm like, okay, tomorrow morning, you're going to get up on the other side of the bed. Just see the world from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Brush your teeth with your left hand if you're a righty. Like, change something, get uncomfortable. And it can be something simple. Go a different way to work. Go see something different at lunch. Go find a different place to go for lunch. Find something new, and then feel that excitement. And then the other new things will come along, and we can pair our seemingly old habits with something new. And now you have something new.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And I love and maybe that's part of where I was like, I'm in like the most exciting time in my life. And I was laughing yesterday, somebody created an opportunity, like a beautiful opportunity that has really tricky timing for me. And like in the pit of my stomach, I feel this like excitement. And I know from the outside, if I say yes to this opportunity, that's like, kind of seems crazy on paper. And I was laughing because I was like, you know what? I am not the person I was 5 years ago. Would have just immediately said, no, not possible. Doesn't make sense. And now over time, from stepping out of the comfort zone, stepping out of the comfort zone, stepping out of the comfort zone, I now live out of the comfort zone.
Yes. I
don't live in the comfort zone. And as somebody who historically had a lot of anxiety and I don't have any of that either. So,
I want to just tell your listeners right now, y'all, are you hearing? This is gold. Y'all, it takes staying uncomfortable to really shift your life. That means you might be a little hungry between lunch and dinner. That means you might have to figure out how to get up half an hour early so you can start.
You might not like that alarm clock in the beginning.
No, and get to bed earlier so that you don't need one.
Right. So, but
allow yourself to wake up without one.
Out of the discomfort comes change. We cannot.
It's the only way.
Create change. We do not create change in comfort.
Exactly. There's nothing on this planet that has shifted or changed that isn't uncomfortable. I mean, we're headed into fall, right? You think the trees are not ready to drop their leaves? You think they're going
fighting the nature cycle? It's time to let go.
I get to take a break.
Yep.
I get to rest for 3 or 4 months. I get to store up energy so that when spring comes along, I can pop out some new ones. And that's how we are too. We have to step back. We have to look at things hard. And it helps when we have somebody like you or me coaching through it. And I know we started this conversation with menopause, but menopause is the same thing.
It's a natural cycle.
It is part of the natural cycle. And, in my practice, I don't do very much with hormones. I do a lot, but I don't do it with a hormone, like an endogenous hormone, something taking a hormone. I do it without that. You can do it with food. You can do it with herbals. Sometimes you need a little touch of DHEA or a little bit of progesterone or a little bit, or I may need to send somebody to go get some pellets or something else that if it's not working, I don't leave that out, that it just shouldn't be. And there's an awful lot that we can do without it. And I know in your practice, you guys probably do more than I do.
And I don't, because I'm not a physician, but yes, and listeners know I've had a lot of conversations about, I went from fully cycling to having no
party parts. That's
no party parts.
That's hard.
And so I personally am a firm believer that for me, that was a great choice. Yep. But even so, it is the same as I look at it this way. Mostly kind of, it's like when the diabetic says I can have the donut because I took my insulin. Right. Well, how about don't have the donut and you'll need less insulin. It'll work better. Even if you're type 1, like I'm not picking on, it was just low hanging fruit, but doing the lifestyle, like just getting hormone replacement and not changing diet. I know we were going to dig into gut health. Maybe you'll come back and we can dig deeper into, but
we can definitely do that.
The whole lifestyle piece, right? We're not, somebody just reached out and was like, I want, it was a man, he wants TRT. What does that look like at your clinic? And I'm like, well, it looks like we treat the whole person. Like, you're not going to come in and we're going to, like, we don't do that.
That's not a thing. Yeah.
No, no. And you hear the ads on the radio for, the men's clinic, and literally they're like paying you to come in. And so we're still whole humans, and everything that you're doing with your clients, even if they are clients who are using hormone replacement therapy, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy,
right,
it's all going to work better than
absolutely
if they weren't doing the things.
And they may even be able to get off of it eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, I took a little bit of thyroid right after I had really bad postpartum after my first child. And I was 30. I had just turned 39 about a month after she was born. And it was awful.
So a geriatric pregnancy.
Oh,
I hate that word. like this is, no one ever
really?
should say that to a pregnant woman. Exactly. Yeah. Like, who made those words up? A man, clearly a man.
Yeah, I know. Yes. I was one of the first geriatric patients that my normal physician ever saw. And I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. And I found a midwife, and I did it different. But, all of that to just say that, yes, we are all different. And yes, every woman needs a little bit different plan as they head into and head through menopause. And it still needs to be holistically planned.
Right.
Just taking hormone replacement can actually increase inflammation for some women. And I've seen it happen. Their face blows up and they start gaining weight. And I'm like, yeah, but what else are you doing? And they're like, well,
nothing.
Drinking every week, and every night I have a drink, alcohol. That's another podcast too. They're eating the same way. I'm like, well, you've just increased your inflammation. You haven't fixed anything.
Right.
So yes, it does. You still have to go back to the basics for the foundation.
We're trying to get away from the Band-Aid, right? Like the Band-Aid is just a Band-Aid. And if you're not changing other things and addressing all of the other underlying stuff,
right,
then hormone replacement therapy becomes a Band-Aid too. Like it's not, there is no doctor fix it. Like we have to kind of look inward. And to kind of go full circle, there's another piece where faith, whatever your faith is so important for health, because we do need to get quiet, and all of the other things that you mentioned, the community, be still, be in connection.
Yes.
Be in community.
Yes.
These are important things. I love, we're in different states and we get to meet over Zoom, and technology has a way of bringing people together.
It has.
As long as we remember actually to get out and like touch real people and hug have contact.
So important, especially you and I, right? I work 100% virtually. So, and I have clients everywhere. Yeah. And I know that a couple nights a week, I do volunteer at church one night a week, and I have a group of people that I hang out with on the weekends, so that I have actual human touch regularly, right?
Yeah.
My daughter lives with me, but she's 21,
consensual.
So that's a hit or miss.
I was like, I'm telling people, go run around and touch people. I heard it on a podcast. This is good for my health.
That's so funny, because it's a memory that I'll always have of my mom. She would touch everybody. And post-COVID, I'm like, Mom, you just have to stop. And she just couldn't.
No, well, what I learned to do,
she puts her hand into babies. And I'm like,
often will ask permission. But I'm that person. I'll be like, I'm a hugger. Is that okay? As I'm already going in for the hug.
You're going in.
It's like, here's your chance to run fast. But it's that mindfulness, right? Like, again, I love this ability to connect with people around the world and make true, real connection. But we still need in-person connection and community. Sometimes our 5 people are not in our physical space. That's okay.
Right.
That's okay. But make sure somebody.
Yeah, you have to have that. Yeah, we need those communities. You have to reach out. You have to find your people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, online, you can find those places too.
Sure.
Right. And it's not about the dating apps. I know I'm single, but it's not about that. Right. It's like, there's other ways that you can connect with people in your community.
Yeah.
So,
I say,
yeah.
Whether it's faith-based or whatever you enjoy, other people enjoy it too.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find those people that way. Like it's a
Yeah.
great way, or like you just said, volunteering is a great way. If you've moved somewhere
You get to
new
serve.
or life has gotten smaller, show up in service and you'll find your people. You will.
Absolutely, it is that you're passionate about. I love salsa dancing. And one of the first things I did when I moved to Nashville was like, okay, I know there's a big dance community here. So I went and found people that would do salsa dancing just to have something to do.
It's
and
such
to
a
meet
good
some
one.
people.
My daughter was living in Oxford this past year, and
Cool.
and she never had salsa. Did she started? Somebody dragged her to a salsa class, and that became her thing. And that was what I said to her. I said, anywhere you live in the world, you now can find community through salsa dancing. And it's not her like end all be all.
No, but it's still
not her
a
biggest
point
passion,
of connection.
but it's a great, and it's fun. Like you don't go salsa dancing and sit and sulk. Like you
have to be, 5 minutes of the music and you're happy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the happy dance,
Yeah.
It's the 3 to 5 minute happy dance. You're not feeling it today. I tell people like, grab your phone, find your favorite song and go. If you have to, go to the bathroom in your office and just dance in a stall if you have to, right?
Yeah,
like
I wrote an article
about
that, dancing it out. Dance
it out.
Yes. Yeah. If you're like me, you don't have to do it in front of people. My daughter made us a playlist. It's called Dancing in the Kitchen, because apparently I dance in the kitchen a lot. I didn't even notice until I was like, why'd you call it that? She's like, you guys are always dancing while you're cooking, and always, because there was a music on in the background. So
that's what makes you happy, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I used to embarrass my kids in Home Depot when I'm like, oh, that's a good tune.
Oh, I think it's our job as parents.
Agreed.
I used to say, as a kid, I was like, Dad, like your mom with the touching people. My dad would make conversation with and jokes, with anybody checking us out, and with strangers, just and now I'm like, oh, that was such a beautiful gift. I had no idea. As a kid, I was horrified. Like, Dad, why are you doing that?
The same way. I know. So never knew a stranger.
Such amazing, so many nuggets. I'm going to listen to this one again. And I definitely want to have you back, and we can pick a thing and stick to it. But okay. I really, really just felt called to bring in the conversation. And I know, and this is your conversation, really.
It is part of my conversation, for sure.
Faith and wellness and really, I believe, I use the word responsibility. I'll let you wrap it up with your words, but taking care of our bodies is a gift that we get to do our best and continue every day. Like you said, is a fresh start to execute. Like, how can we better do this? Because it makes us better people.
Yeah.
I know on the inside, the people
that you serve.
Yeah. When I was really sick, I was still a good person on the inside, but I wasn't contributing to my community because I felt like I couldn't. And so there it is.
Right there. Right there.
Yeah.
You couldn't contribute to the community. And I think it is a responsibility, but I also think it's an innate, I think it's in us. I think it's part of our DNA, if you will.
I think it's why we're here.
To serve. Yeah. And when we can get out of our own way and realize that volunteering once a week to do whatever that is that you are passionate, whether it's taking care of kitties or taking care of old people or teaching people how to salsa dance or whatever it is, if it just jazzes you up, go do the thing.
Yes.
And you will be healthier in the long run for that thing. You will.
I love it.
Yeah. And it is a responsibility, without guilt, without shame, from a place of gratitude, I get to serve because my body's healthy, I feel good, and I get to do this.
It's an opportunity.
So it is an opportunity.
I was trying to find the word, and you got me there. Thank you. It's an opportunity.
Oh,
It feels better than responsibility. But it is, you know, it really, really is. And always, it is true when you get it back and, you know, tenfold when you show up in service. So, well, you already did, but I'm going to ask you anyway and give you one more opportunity.
Sure.
We always wrap with, what is Dr. Kris's one step that listeners can take today to start to improve their health?
Well, okay. I'll go right down to the basics, right? I said it earlier, right? Your food is your biggest impact on your body. And so when you feed it well, then you will be more well. And so what does that look like? Does it have to be crazy? Do you have to do what Julie and I do? No, but let's just find, how about protein 3 or 4 times a day? How about fresh fruits and vegetables all day? How about just that?
Yes.
Stop
Real
eating
food
stuff out of boxes. Stop eating stuff that has 4,000 ingredients. Start drinking water with a little bit of sea salt in it so you can actually hydrate your cells.
Support those adrenals. Yes.
Support your adrenals. Exactly. And, you know, that's going to get you out of your slump, right?
Yes.
That's going to get you out of the hole. And then, you know, contact Julie, contact me. We do labs so that you can know what you need to take in terms of vitamins. Most of my clients, probably yours too, have an entire cabinet that we call the supplement graveyard, right? That they've tried and they've bought.
Oh yeah, I heard this on a podcast.
Subscriptions on the internet.
Yep.
I found it on Amazon. Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Let's do targeted. Let's find out what your body needs.
Find out what you need.
Yeah.
To take that and use your word, level up.
Yeah.
Your supplementation, right? So then you have your foundation of eat and drink and move and sleep. And then your supplements on top of that will start you with a solid foundation, right? Not one built on sand, one built on the rock. And that's really going to start you down a different path. And It doesn't have to be scary or hard. Thank you.
No, or all at once, right? Like it's step by step. No, it doesn't have to be all
at once. No, that's why, I mean, I do a 90-day coaching program because I know it's going to take you a month to figure out what to eat. I know that.
To do that.
And how to do it and how to work it in and how do I batch cook and how do I have protein all the time? How do I do that? What does that look like? And so, yeah, that's where people need to start, with somebody like you or me.
Amazing. Gold. Dr. Kris, thank you so very
Julie,
much. Thanks for hanging out with me extra long today and getting me ready for the weekend.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
For everyone listening, remember you can get the transcripts and show notes by visiting inspiredliving.show. Hope you had a great time and enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity. Did you enjoy this episode? Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to get a transcript of this and every other episode, just head on over to inspiredliving.show or click on the link in this episode's description. There, you can also find everything we discussed in this episode, including links and information about our guest. You can even send in your questions to be answered by Julie in a future episode. That's inspiredliving.show. Until next time, this is Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, helping you take your power back.